Suppose your essential bills cost $3,200 a month and you finally create an $800 surplus. After 2 months, savings reaches $1,600. Then a $1,200 car repair leaves $400, back near zero. That is not proof that you lack discipline. It proves one savings bucket is doing two different jobs, absorbing shocks and building a reserve. This blueprint separates those jobs, stops the predictable resets, and protects the path toward meaningful cash. The numbers are illustrative, and $10,000 is an anchor, not a universal emergency fund target. Because the first $10,000 feels impossible when every dollar you save is still waiting to be reassigned. Blueprint 1. Meet Alex. Alex takes home enough to cover $3,200 of essential monthly costs and still sees $800 left in the checking account. So $800 looks like the monthly savings rate. At that pace, $10,000 appears to be 12.5 months away. But the calculation is wrong. The monthly budget includes rent, groceries, utilities, transportation, and minimum obligations. It does not include the insurance premium that arrives twice a year, holiday travel, a future set of tires, annual subscriptions, medical copays, or the laptop Alex will eventually replace. These expenses are irregular, but many of them are not unpredictable. When they are excluded from the monthly plan, the $800 surplus is partly an illusion. Alex is not failing to save $800. Alex is assigning some of the same $800 twice. This distinction matters because financial shocks are normal, not rare exceptions. In the Federal Reserve's 2025 household survey, 59% of adults reported at least one major unexpected expense during the prior year. Vehicle repair or replacement was the most common category. The first move is therefore an expense radar. Look backward over the last 12 months. Find every expense that was not monthly but was still connected to normal life. Insurance, maintenance, medical costs, gifts, travel, school expenses, technology, and annual fees. Add the likely total and divide by 12. If Alex finds $2,400 of predictable irregular costs, that is $200 per month. The honest reserve building capacity is not $800. It is $600, while $200 belongs in a separate irregular expense fund. The plan now looks slower on paper, but it becomes faster in reality because the target stops moving backward every time a known bill arrives. Decision rule: if an expense is likely, estimable, and expected within the next year, it is not an emergency. Give it a monthly lane before measuring your savings progress. Blueprint 2. Separating predictable expenses solves only half of the problem. Alex still needs protection from events that are genuinely unplanned. A sudden repair, urgent medical cost, broken appliance, or temporary income interruption. That is the job of the starter buffer. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau describes an emergency fund as cash set aside specifically for unplanned expenses, and it makes an important point. The appropriate amount depends on your situation. So do not begin with someone else's perfect number. Begin with your most likely expensive shock that your normal monthly cash flow could not absorb. For Alex, the car is required to get to work. Recent repairs suggest that $1,200 is a realistic first line of defense. That makes $1,200 the illustrative starter buffer target, not because everyone needs exactly $1,200, but because this specific risk could interrupt Alex's income. With $600 of true monthly capacity, Alex can build that first buffer in 2 months. Now repeat the opening case. The $1,200 repair arrives. Alex uses the buffer for exactly the job it was designed to perform. The balance falls, but the system has not failed. No credit card balance appears, no bill is missed, and the larger reserve does not need to be liquidated. Then comes the refill rule. After the emergency, new savings first restore the starter buffer before returning to the larger reserve. This makes using emergency money a planned system event, not an emotional defeat. Keep this money safe and accessible. Its first job is reliability, not maximizing return. Decision rule: if the expense is unplanned, urgent, and protects health, housing, essential transportation, or income, the starter buffer may be the right lane. If it is merely desirable or predictable, it belongs somewhere else. Blueprint 3. Once the reset loop is controlled, the next danger is inconsistency. Most people save what remains at the end of the month. But the end of the month is where every competing decision has already taken its share. Alex reverses the order. The day after payday, 2 transfers happen automatically. The first sends $200 to predictable irregular expenses. The second sends $600 toward the current cash target. First the starter buffer, then the larger reserve. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and the FDIC both identify recurring automatic transfers as a practical way to make saving consistent. But automation must be based on real margin. An aggressive transfer that repeatedly causes overdrafts is not discipline. It is a badly calibrated system. Start with an amount your checking account can survive through an ordinary month. Then review it after major income or expense changes. Alex also creates a rule for irregular income. A bonus, tax refund, gift, or freelance payment does not enter the account without a destination. Before the money arrives, Alex chooses what portion will strengthen the current bottleneck. The percentage can change with circumstances. The commitment is made before the spending options appear. And the savings target stays visible. Not through daily checking, but through a simple payday scoreboard. Did the transfers happen? Is the irregular expense fund on pace for known bills? Is the starter buffer full? How many months of essential costs can the larger reserve cover? That scoreboard measures system behavior rather than motivation. Decision rule. Automate the minimum reliable amount, then direct increases in income toward the current bottleneck before expanding lifestyle costs. Blueprint 4. Now the $10,000 milestone can be interpreted honestly. $10,000 is not the same amount of safety for every household. For Alex, essential costs are $3,200 per month. $10,000 divided by $3,200 equals a little more than 3 months of essential expense runway. For someone whose essentials are $2,000, the same $10,000 represents 5 months. For someone whose essentials are $5,000, it represents only 2. The account balance matters, but the more useful measure is decision time. Reserve divided by essential monthly costs equals months of runway. That number tells you what the cash can actually do. Could it absorb a short gap between jobs without immediate debt? Could it give you time to reject a dangerous loan, leave an unstable living situation, handle a family emergency, or wait for the right next role instead of the first available paycheck? This is why cash stability comes before chasing a higher investment return with money you may need soon. Volatile assets can fall at the same moment your income becomes uncertain. A reserve is valuable precisely because its job is different. There is also an honest limitation. Cash cannot prevent every crisis. A long income loss, major medical event, disability, or disaster can overwhelm even a careful reserve. Insurance, public programs, family support, flexible spending, and access to responsible credit may still matter. The system does not make life predictable. It creates more choices before the next decision becomes urgent. Decision rule. Choose the larger reserve target by asking how much decision time your life, income stability, dependents, insurance coverage, and essential obligations require, not by copying one number from the internet. Your first $10,000 feels impossible when one pile of money is expected to handle every future job. So separate the jobs. First, stop the reset by turning predictable irregular expenses into a monthly amount. Second, build a starter buffer around the most likely shock your ordinary cash flow cannot absorb. Third, protect the deposit with an automatic transfer based on real margin. Fourth, measure the larger reserve in months of decision time. Here is the one paycheck action. Before your next payday, review the last 12 months of non-monthly expenses. Divide their likely annual total by 12. Create or rename 3 savings lanes: irregular expenses, starter buffer, and decision time reserve. Then schedule the smallest transfer you can repeat without borrowing it back. The first $10,000 is not proof that you finally became disciplined. It is evidence that your system learned how to keep the money you work to save.
If you found this analysis valuable, leave a like and comment. It helps the video reach more people who care about long-term financial thinking. And subscribe to the Finance Blueprint for more structured breakdowns of the world's most important financial ideas.